Okay.
So with the exhibitor wine walk, and I mean, it was, I think it went from '01 to 2012. I think that sounds about right if I'm looking back into the history. Comment about removing the red tape from that event so that it can actually, continue to go on.
Well, the state actually helped us with that. The state changed that. So the original version of Exhibitor, as it was being conducted, required a waiver to an ordinance that we had on our books. It is a state law that says you cannot have open intoxicants in public right-of-way. And so to get that event to even function, they had to obtain a waiver from this committee and from the city council that would essentially, for that period of time, waive off that public right-of-way law. Came to find out, though, after a legal review, that we were not even legally able to give that waiver. So for 10 plus events, they got the waiver, they conducted the event, but technically that event was always in violation of Wisconsin law. And so when they would have Exhibitor up here in those older years, other communities would call and say, well, how is Wausau getting away with this? How can you do it? We can't get it to happen. And came to find out that we were in violation with those waivers. We never should have been giving them in the first place. And then after a whole lot of drama and denials of the waiver at some point, that event quit happening. That said, though, it was not a bad event. It just ran counter to the state law. So fast forward 4 or 5 years, the state now has changed that law, and communities are now able to grant event licenses for wine walks, specifically for wine walks, and then we can create an exemption that would allow those beverages to traverse the public right-of-way as part of the event. And so by adopting those regulations into our policy, we're also now able to allow for wine walks. And so last year, Exhibitor was trying to get itself back together. They were looking for some sponsors, and the logistics didn't allow it to pull together in time for 2017. It was a lot of work for the couple people that were working on it. But this year now, the legal red tape that existed to get the permit for it, to make it happen, within the confines of the law and public right-of-way, that's gone. So if event organizers can organize, either that event or one similar, there would not be a hurdle for them to clear in terms of event licensing from the city to get that to happen. We've got those, underpinnings in place for it. So
Those were pretty well attended events back in the day, weren't they?
they were. They had commemorative glassware for the event. A number of businesses participated. And the state law also made some changes for those businesses. When Exhibitor was originally conceived, those businesses had to be closed for commerce because it was also illegal for them to conduct commerce and serve alcohol. So the economic benefit to the host galleries was undermined because they had to be closed. And some of that now has also changed. So I think if an event, either Exhibitor or something similar were to come to play now, I think it would be easier for galleries or host businesses to host a gallery space in their establishment. I think it would be easier for event organizers to get the proper permits and things in place.
So I was looking through the changes to the housing discrimination ordinance, and some of it seems like it's just a lot of logistical changes, but can you talk about why you guys decided to do that now?
Because the ordinance that we had on our books was old and had not been updated in over 20 years. And given the fact that there are more things that complaints can be filed over, we thought that to establish a formal conduit for those complaints and a set process by which they get investigated and they get that consistent, timely resolution made sense. And so to go forward and have a review panel comprised of folks who understand fair housing, understand the federal and state laws that apply to fair housing, and the legal climate that surrounds it. The board that we would create that would do the review are professionals who understand the laws surrounding fair housing and can make a much easier determination as to whether or not there's truly been an incident of discrimination that perhaps should go to that next level, than to bring it here to the Public Health and Safety Committee, where we essentially are 5 alder people, but none of us are specialists in fair housing. And so we think the response will be professional and consistent by shuttling it to that review board and letting that panel take care of those complaints. That also then eliminates the need for someone filing a complaint to wait until our next meeting. We meet once a month. The board that we've put together to evaluate those concerns can meet whenever they need to, and they don't need to wait for the next monthly meeting of a committee to perhaps get resolution for those folks.
One addition that stood out to me was the inclusion of victims of domestic abuse and sexual assault. Why was that? Why did you guys feel that that should be included?
Well, because the laws surrounding discrimination on those bases have changed as well. And so previously not being included in our ordinance, we wanted to be as timely as we could in revisiting the ordinance and make it, as aligned with current law as we possibly can. And so we not only brought it into the now, but we've also found, this, or created a panel that can offer quick resolution and review to complaints that get filed. We've had more of them. We went, 20 years and had a couple, and in the last couple of years we've had 4 or 5. And
Specifically related to those issues?
specifically related to housing in general, and in a number of those cases, we found that there were mitigating circumstances, but that investigation still needs to happen to determine if those affected parties go to that next step or not. And so I think that this will be a much more efficient process for people who are filing complaints if they would need to.
Okay. Thank you
And
so much.
how long before this is up and running?
Well, anything that a committee approves goes through city council. So all public health and safety resolutions go to the first council meeting of the following month. So I would expect that would happen on the second Tuesday of March, and then probably that following week.
So this will be up and running within a month.
Right.
Right.
Well, we already, on the fair housing issue, we already have a process to review fair housing complaints. It's just that it's changing, and the expedited process would be available next month.
Right.
So, under the new process, will it go straight to the board, or will it still go through the city
It'll
attorney
start
first
in the
and
city
then-
attorney's office. She'll gather the facts and then convene that panel of professionals that have that knowledge in terms of the rules that govern those processes, and then they can conduct that review.
Thank you so much.